4 silver stars adorned each shoulder. He didn't smile or wave. This was General Samuel Wyatt, retired commander of the Special Operations Command. The moment he entered the building, everything changed. Security personnel didn't ask for ID. The employee behind the switch stood a little straighter. Wyatt didn't explain anything, just said courtroom 3 and moved on. No one inside knew he was there. The jury hadn't returned yet. The judge tapped her pen, trying not to notice anything. The defense attorney tapped aimlessly on his keyboard. The prosecutor checked his cell phone. Daniel sat restless, just as he had all day. Then the doors opened. People turned, cameras clicked. But when the judge saw who it was, she stood. Not out of protocol, but instinct. Wyatt didn't approach the judge's bench. He didn't glance at the lawyers. He went straight to Daniel, and finally Daniel looked up. Their eyes met. No handshake, no salute, no words, just recognition, the kind that makes noise without sound. The judge whispered, "General, what are you doing here?" Wyatt turned to her, then to the courtroom. His voice was quiet but determined. "I'm here because of this man sitting there. The reason I'm still alive." Dead silence. "He doesn't know. I came. He didn't ask me to. In fact, if I know him, he probably hoped I wouldn't. But I heard about this trial and I couldn't stay silent." He took a step forward. 31 years ago, I was outside Fallujah, trapped behind a collapsing wall. My team was cut off, no comms, 2 men fell, we were surrounded. Then a single sniper opened an escape route. 12 targets in less than 5 minutes, every shot precise. The last one, a moving target. Roof hatch, 936 yards. Crosswind. That shot saved my life. He paused. That sniper was Gunnery Sergeant Daniel Rick. A roar erupted in the room. Reporters scrambled for recordings. The prosecutor paled. Wyatt raised his hand. The room fell silent again. "I've read the case. I know the charges. And I'll tell you this. Whatever words this man might have said in a parking lot, he deserves the right to be heard." He looked at the judge. "With your permission, I'd like to address the jury." She nodded. The jury turned to him. Daniel hadn't defended himself, not because he was guilty, but because he was tired. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of seeing his silence interpreted as a threat. He never returned for praise. "But don't be fooled," Wyatt continued. "When chaos breaks out and no one knows where to turn, you pray someone like him is nearby." Then, quietly, almost a confession, "Men like him aren't meant to be chained. You read about them in history books." And then came the moment no one expected. General Wyatt knelt on one knee, not in shame, not in weakness, but in apology to a man who had never asked for one. The courtroom erupted. Even the judge's hand trembled as she held her gavel. The jurors turned back speechless, shaken by the sight of a 4-star general kneeling before the man they had been ready to convict. Daniel didn't move at first. Then slowly he stood, walked over to Wyatt, and extended his hand. Wyatt took it. They stood there not as a hero and a general, but as 2 men who had seen the same hell and somehow survived. The judge found her voice again. "In light of this testimony and the extraordinary circumstances, I dismiss all charges for lack of evidence. Effective immediately. Gavel down, chains off, no cheers, only reverence." Daniel turned to the jury, nodded, then walked down the center aisle with the same steady pace he had carried all these years. Not triumphant, not angry, simply complete. Outside, veterans stood in formation. One saluted. Daniel said nothing. He didn't have to. And for the first time in decades, he seemed free. Not just from the courtroom, but from the burden of being forgotten. Because sometimes, a hero no longer wears a uniform. He doesn't make speeches, doesn't need applause. He only hopes quietly that maybe someone will remember what he gave without ever asking for anything in return. Daniel Rick never asked to be defended. But this time, someone did. And maybe that's what justice should be. Not loud, not easy, but right. Now it's your turn. Do you know someone who never asked for recognition but deserved it more than anyone? Leave a comment and share their story. Let's ensure silence doesn't bury honor. Let's make sure someone remembers. Outside, it began to rain, not heavily, but softly, as if heaven itself mourned in silence. Or maybe gave thanks. Daniel paused on the courthouse steps, raindrops gathering on his jacket, though he hardly seemed to notice. Beside him stood General Wyatt. "I should have come sooner," Wyatt said quietly. Daniel didn't answer. His gaze lingered on a little boy waving from beneath his mother's umbrella, not out of recognition but childish curiosity. Maybe that was all Daniel needed. No headlines, no parades, just an honest look, free of judgment. Subscribe to Heartstring. Radio for more interesting heart-touching stories. They walked on slowly. The crowd parted, not out of fear but respect. Some saluted, others lowered their eyes, no one spoke to him. And that was fine. Daniel had never been one for the spotlight. He'd spent his life in the shadows, a shield, a backbone, the one who stepped between danger and hope. He didn't return to a grand house. No press waited at his door. Instead, it was a small, simple home on the city's outskirts, its walls lined with old photos, medals, and unsent letters. On a table lay a framed newspaper clipping. Forgotten hero or dangerous man? Daniel smiled faintly, then turned the picture face down. It was time to look forward. In the days that followed, something unexpected happened. Letters arrived, not official documents, but handwritten notes from strangers. Children who'd learned about him in school, old comrades who'd never dared to come forward. Widows whose husbands had served under Daniel's protection. "Thank you. I remember. You gave me hope." The words filled his kitchen with something deeper than any medal or honor could. Yet Daniel remained unchanged. He went to bed early, rose at dawn, took walks, read books, and tended his garden, where the first roses had begun to bloom. A neighbor's son, Leon, started visiting, first out of curiosity, then with earnest questions. "Why did you never come back? Did the world ever make you angry? Would you do it all again?" Daniel didn't always answer directly, but each time Leon returned, the boy understood. The truth wasn't always in words, but in the quiet, steadfast presence of a man who'd never sought thanks yet lived ready to give. One day Leon found a small notebook on the porch. Inside, in clear, unhurried handwriting, was a single line. "Honor doesn't live in monuments, but in the memory of those who carry on." Years passed. Daniel grew older, his steps slower, his voice even rarer. Then, one spring morning, the garden chair stood empty. No headlines announced his passing, no parade, no state funeral, just a man remembered quietly. But Leon, now a soldier himself, stood at the grave, saluted, and said firmly, "I haven't forgotten you." And that was the point, because justice isn't always loud. Heroes don't always wear uniforms, and sometimes